Below the tip of the iceberg.
Unveiling the Truth About Poverty in America, a presentation by Zebrina, Edgerton-Maloy,
and Zahra, Yousofi.
At first glance, an iceberg appears to be a large body of ice that is floating at the surface of the water. However, approximately 90% of an iceberg is actually underwater. This means that the ice that is seen above the surface is just a fraction of the entire iceberg. Similarly, there is more to poverty than what meets the eye. Many are disillusioned in their views of poverty. For some, it may seem like poverty is limited to just the homeless, the starving, or the unemployed. Others believe that it is more than possible for people to attain the American dream, but that individuals choose to remain impoverished. In reality, poverty encompasses a large range of people who are in unique circumstances that may be preventing them from escaping the vicious cycle of poverty. Unfortunately, poverty is a multi-dimensional issue that has yet to be solved in countries around the world, especially in the United States. In order to melt away the iceberg of poverty in America, one must figure out a way of measuring it. Doing so will allow the impoverished people to be clearly represented so they may receive the appropriate resources to assist them during their hard times. However, before we can even think about measuring poverty, we have to figure out what the word poverty truly means. Poverty can be defined as a deprivation of the sufficient resources needed in order to ensure the well-being of an individual. Resources include, but are not limited to, food, clothing, water, shelter, and education, or basically anything that allows one to live a dignified life. Without these essentialities, an individual is incapable of properly functioning in a society. One of the main necessities needed to live in the United States is money. Depending on a person's income, one may or may not be able to survive in this country that has such a high standard of living. The official poverty measurement, which is America's current way of determining poverty, takes a person's income into.
Currently, the official poverty measurement, or OPM, defines poverty based on whether an individual or family is capable of fulfilling the basic needs in life. The OPM is annually updated for any changes used by inflation. However, the OPM is a very narrow and oversimplified evaluation of poverty in America. The OPM measures poverty by calculating gross annual pre-tax income through a threshold that is set a minimum cost of 3 times the average food diet. However, this average is from data that was obtained in 1963. The America we know today is very different from America during the 1960s. Prices have increased and people's standards of living have changed. Therefore, having the same evaluation for the past 50 years is a misrepresentation of poverty in America today. In addition, the OPM fails to address key characteristics that influences an individual's depth of poverty. For instance, official poverty measurement does not include receipt of in-kind transfers such as food subsidies, housing subsidies, childcare subsidies, or the earned income tax credit, all of which increases the economic well-being of the family. The money income concept does not account for work expenses or taxes paid also, which reduces well-being. It does not include geography. Therefore, official poverty measurement does not represent the actual poverty rate in America. Sam is working in a factory for only $8 an hour. Sam is living an hour away from his job, so he has to take a bus every time he goes to his work. He also has to pay money for daycare to take care of his 2 children. With that amount of money that Sam earns, a huge portion of his money is spent in transportation and childcare. OPM is insufficient because it does not take these expenses into consideration. However, in 2010, United States Census Bureau found another more accurate way of measuring poverty. This new method better reflects the lives of 21st century Americans. It is called Supplemental Poverty Measurement, or SPM. SPM takes many necessary things into account that OPM doesn't, such as geography, food stamps, work expenses, and etc.
Although the SPM covers more aspects of poverty than the OPM does, it still doesn't incorporate an essential part of this complicated issue into its measurement. It fails to acknowledge an individual's functionings and specifically their capabilities. According to Martha Nussbaum and Amartya Sen, functionings are the various lifestyles or beings or activities or doings an individual can do or be in their life. Some examples of functionings are being able to be well-nourished, knowing how to read and write, being socially acceptable, or living a healthy lifestyle. However, if an individual is incapable of executing any of the functionings that they would like to be or do, then that person is deprived of capabilities. In an interview, Sen gives a definition of capabilities.
Now, capability is what are the alternative or different combinations of beings and doings that are within my command, which I can choose. That I could, do certain things that if I...
Another example of a capability or the lack thereof is the ability to be educated. If Taylor is not well educated, either because of her upbringing or because she decided to drop out of high school, then there is a wide range of functionings that will no longer be available to her. One of the main things that Taylor's lack in education will affect is her ability to get a good paying job. Without a sufficient occupation, Taylor will not be able to save up that much money. This will not only affect her and her own personal goals, it will also inherently affect her children, especially pertaining to their own education. Because Taylor has a lack of education from dropping out of high school at such an early age, her children will possibly be capability deprived. This is just one scenario out of thousands of people who suffer from a lack of capabilities. Scenarios such as this one goes to show how capabilities is vital to the measurement of poverty. However, it cannot stand alone. Capabilities needs to be incorporated with OPM and SPM in order to create a clear-cut poverty measurement.
OPM and SPM should be combined for various reasons. Rebecca Blaine mentions how the SPM complements the OPM and will provide info on some aspects of economic needs. Even though the OPM uses data from the 1960s to calculate the poverty rate in America today, it is still a good source for data on how the cash and earnings are changing among lower income families. In addition, it shows the availability of work for these sorts of families. SPM provides a more complex and detailed calculation of poverty. It will help us understand the changes in the economic needs of people in America. Blank states that SPM is designed as an aggregate statistic that will tell us something about changes over time in economic need among specific population groups and regions. SPM should also provide better information on the impact of changes in governmental policy on the well-being of low-income families. Even though capabilities will provide poverty measurements with a new perspective on the issue, some claim that it is misguided. Instead of focusing primarily on the lack of capabilities, there should be more of an emphasis on the inadequacy of income. However, this claim fails to mention the capabilities is the foundation of in itself. If someone is incapable of getting a job, there will be no such thing as an income for that individual. Capabilities is the motivation that pushes individuals to strive for the best. If they know they are capable of so much more, they will continue to reach for that goal to dream. In addition, capabilities when combined with the OPM and SPM will provide more substance to this need and improve poverty measurement. While OPM and SPM address the financial aspects of poverty, capabilities will incorporate what an individual is capable of doing or being.
By combining official poverty measurement, supplemental poverty measurement, and capabilities, the country will finally have an accurate data of the poverty status in America and whether impoverished people's lives are improving. It will also provide the government with more information on what specific programs are needed to help those struggling in poverty. Eventually, this measurement will decrease the poverty in America. In other words, this new measurement will help pick at the frozen surface of the iceberg of poverty. Even though only a small amount of an iceberg can be seen above the surface of the water, there are ways to view the other 90% of it without having to dive into the tumultuous waters. One way to do so is to pick at the surface of the iceberg and break away the ice. As more ice is being displaced and it becomes lighter, more of the iceberg will be above the water. By removing layers upon layers of ice, the bottom of the iceberg will eventually reach the surface. This directly applies to poverty and the new measurement we are advocating. Through the combination of OPM, SPM, and capabilities, we will be removing all generalizations and assumptions that have been made about poverty in America. By doing so, we will increasingly get closer to the root of the poverty problem. Eventually, we will reach the bottom of the iceberg of poverty. Implementing this combination measurement will pick away at the poverty in America until it is gone for good.